All right. Hello to everybody. I don't know if it's on there yet. Oh, there's Jess. Hi. So I'm guessing it is. Hi, welcome. Welcome to the Midnight Society Book Club. I'm Elizabeth. This is Ashley. I guess she's over there. This is Ashley. And this month we are reading, or we have read at this point, The Drift by CJ Tudor, which I think we're both very much looking forward to hearing people's thoughts about this. Let's see here. Hi, Sarah. What's up, Jess? Minnesota, eh? What's up, Kaylee? Okay, so Ashley, do you want to start out by introducing yourself and your channel and saying a little bit
Sure.
about what you read typically?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley. My channel is Ashley's Little Library. I typically read spooky things, so mysteries, thrillers, horror books, suspense books, and I sprinkle in some other stuff every now and then. I'm really looking forward to Emily Henry's new book this month, so like I'll pick up a romance from her every now and then, or like magical, speculative things. Elizabeth and I both like psychological stuff or alternate dimensions, thinking about the meaning of life in the world and all of those heavy topics. So I like to dabble in that too. But yeah, on my channel, I do all the normal booktuby things, reading vlogs, book recommendations. Uh, that's the main things. I do a 24-hour readathon every other month where we read horror books together. There's one going on in April if you want to join along. And I'm a big CJ Tudor fan as well. I've read everything from CJ Tudor, so I was very excited to read this with Elizabeth.
I still have. There's still one of hers that I have not read yet. I can't
I
remember
have
the
them
name of it.
all right here, so we can take a look. Is it the hiding place one? That's the one most people haven't read.
That's the one. Yeah, I've
I
read the
came
rest of.
prepared.
I need to get to that. Oh yay, more from Texas. Hey y'all. Finally made it to the live instead of the replay. Joining from Saskatchewan. All right. Hi, Kareen. The Netherlands. Shut up. That's awesome.
We have people from all over.
So we're going to start with a non-spoilery section. So it's fair game right now. We won't spoil anything for you. We're just going to kind of talk about probably our ratings and whatnot. Why don't everyone that's watching, if you actually read this, why don't you give me a red heart? And if you're here and you have not read this, why don't you give me, I don't know, what's like a snowflake? Does that make sense? And then we kind of know who all's here and for what purpose. Hi from the UK. Awesome. Oh, I first discovered CJ Tudor because of Ashley recommending Burning Girls and loved it. Love that, Lorena. Okay, we've got lots of red hearts coming in. That's cool. Ashley's good at recommendations.
Thank you.
Red. Oh, the black heart. What does that mean?
I think sometimes, depending on if you're on like a computer or a phone, they'll come in a different color, but that probably means a red heart, and it just looks weird on our end.
So, Ashley, do you want to give us a general description of the book, if you're comfortable doing that? I know it's kind of convoluted premise.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. This is a story that is set during a apocalypse type situation. There's a virus that has spread through the world and creates sort of like zombie-like creatures. You don't get a ton of information about it, but some kind of virus has spread. And you're following three main POVs in the book. And each character is in a dangerous situation, and you're trying to figure out how it might all be connected. Like, why are these the perspectives that you're getting? What is the purpose of the story that this author is trying to tell? So the first perspective that you get is a woman named Hannah, who was a medical student, and she was on the way to the retreat in this like coach bus, and she wakes up and it has crashed, and some people are dead, and she's trying to survive in the snowy landscape, stuck in a drift. The second perspective is Megan, I think is her name. And she also woke up disoriented, on a cable car on the way to the retreat. She's stuck on the cable car with a couple of people halfway between the destination, just hanging above the snow. And then the third perspective is this guy named Carter who was at the retreat, and they keep losing power at the retreat. And there's some sort of outside threat that if the power goes down, they're worried about what will happen. So that is his dangerous situation. I think that covers the main layout.
Thank you. I gotta tell you, like, I don't know at what point I actually looked up what a cable car was, but for much of this book, I was picturing lifts,
like a ski lift.
Yeah. And I thought they were in their own little like chair. Obviously, I don't know much about like skiing and stuff. When I looked up, I was like, "How? This doesn't make any sense. How is there like a latch on top?
What is the inside?"
I had to look it up and like actually see what a cable car is in order to like understand what was going on.
Yeah, that would have been even more intense if they were on just a ski lift freezing out there.
I thought you were just like sitting exposed to the, and just like woke up like, oh, what? Okay, so do we want to talk about ratings? Indeed. Are we comfortable talking about ratings? Okay, I still don't know what Ashley thinks of this at all. I know I just learned that Gabby gave it 1 star, and I know a couple people DNF'd it, so I'm very intrigued. So y'all, why don't you go in the chat and start letting us know if you finished this, what you rated it, just out of curiosity, out of 5. Do you want to go first, Ashley? Do you want me to tell you what I thought of it first?
I want to know what you thought of it.
Okay. I am giving this 4 stars. I liked it, y'all. I understand why people DNF'd this because there are so many characters and there's so much going on, and I definitely had to keep like a character chart going. This is not a beach read. It's not like something that you're just going to want to sit down and read at the beach. You have to put like effort into understanding it. And if I hadn't picked this for a book club pick, I may not have like gone as far as I did to understand what was going on. But this did something for me that no other book has done for me. And I love how she plotted this, and I love how she did this, how she's like set up the characters and the twist and everything. And I thought the ending was great. At first it was a little slow, but I thought the ending was great. And I really liked where she went with this. And this is like one of the first kind of pandemic-y books that I felt actually hit that right spot of like horror, like when it has to do with like some kind of pandemic. Because since 2020, we've been getting all these books and it's all been kind of cheesy. I felt like this was done in a way that was like actually scary and not like triggering for me, though I don't know if it was triggering for others. And that's all I'll say for this moment. So what do you I'm really afraid, Ashley. Did you hate this?
No. I feel like I'm like a 3.5-ish. So pretty close to your rating. I really liked it initially, and then the middle did drag for me a little bit. And I was left feeling kind of like, so what about it a little bit? Like I liked the twist and I thought that was cool, but for some reason I felt like the message of the book was pretty simple and pretty similar to a lot of other pandemic stories, which we can get more into and spoilery things. But I felt exactly the same way you did too, of like, it is a complex book and I was putting effort into it. I was taking notes. I was writing down characters. So I was invested in what was happening because I was like, okay, I know in Megan's story, this is what's happening. And in Hannah's story, this is what's happening. And oh my gosh, there's this photograph. And like, what does that mean? And piecing that together throughout the different parts. But if I wasn't reading it for a book club, and if this wasn't an author that I cared a lot about to spend a lot of time with it, I totally see why people would be like, oh, there's too much going on, hard to follow, not that interesting. So I can see how it's gotten really mixed reception.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense to me. And I liked the twists. Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see how this has gotten mixed reviews because I don't think it's like easy to read. Like you really have to pay attention to it, but I think you also will get out of it what you put into it, kind of like one of those things.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's very, very complex. And I think it had to be in order to pull off that twist. And so I
Yeah.
get that. Um, but yeah, I just thought it was, I loved the ending. I loved where she went with it. And it just gave me CJ Tudor, I felt like her writing.
Yes.
She's so poised. She's so poised and thoughtful when she plots a book, when she writes a book. Um, we had all different kinds of characters in there. I feel like she gets to the core of like who people are in a really satisfying way for me. And yeah, I just thought she did like such a great job with this. Like, yeah, the points that you made, totally valid too. But yeah, that's
I'm
kind of how I
glad that
got.
we're similar. I was worried one of us was like, once I realized what the book was, I was like, oh no, I feel like one of us is going to end up hating this. But we're both like right in the middle of, or middle
Yeah,
to
yeah.
good.
Let's see what else we have here. Between 4 and 5 stars for me, the plot, character building, twist, and overall writing style is pushing it to a 5 for me. I agree there was a slow portion that could have been shortened. There was a lot going on. I liked the twist, but hated the rest of the ending. Interesting. Love when books have different plot line. Okay. Oh, that got me scared for a second. Y'all don't spoil anything in the comments yet because I'm not reading it before I put it up. Okay, let's see. Maybe I should. That wasn't a spoiler though. 3 stars. Oh, intriguing, then boring. Then I really like the plot twist. Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, I had sticky notes going of like all the people in each timeline and like one thing about them.
Yeah,
I'm
me
trying to
too.
figure out like this guy's got the tattoos. This guy's got
Hmm.
this guy's got, like who is that? How are they related?
Yeah,
Last
I
of Us. Yes.
agree.
So the people that get this sickness, they call them whistlers because their skin gets all transparent. I wrote down something like about a black lung or something. Um, where did I write that down?
Yeah, like they
Whistlers.
call them whistlers because they breathe and it sounds like whistling from their lungs
Yes,
being so collapsed.
because they have pitted black lungs. Ugh. Yeah, so like and everybody thinks that the whistlers are like zombies essentially, and so we're trying to figure out, or we figure out as we go on, like if they have like if they still have conscious thought, things like that. So that's really interesting too. Definitely the Last of Us vibes for sure. Um, I also liked that like even though we had these 3 different settings going on, they were all isolated. So
Hmm.
it's isolated setting book in 3 different settings at the same time. So it was
Yeah, I
really
like that
interesting.
too.
So what feeling is real, but it had some good action and twists. My first from her, I will for sure be reading from CJ Tudor again. Yeah, I think The Burning Girls is my favorite of hers. Is that same for you, Ashley, or would you say
Yes,
what's your favorite?
The Burning Girls is still my favorite. I do feel like A Sliver of Darkness, the short story collection, is probably like pretty close to being pretty good too, which is surprising because it's a short story collection. And there's definitely some stories that were misses for me there, but overall, I really liked it. Felt very different for her. Maybe not if you read The Drift first, because she did some apocalypse stuff in A Sliver of Darkness, but when that came out, that was new for her.
Didn't she say? Oh no, she said during the Sliver of Darkness that one of the stories. What did she say? One of the stories was based on this one, or was in the same world as this one,
I think
or is it
the one where they're like going to that house and it's the dad and his daughter, I think
Oh yeah,
might be connected to it because she
I
said
like.
she started writing The Drift, wasn't ready to publish it yet, but her publishers needed something, so she wrote the short story collection to publish in the
Mhm.
meantime.
Yes, yes, that story was really good too with the dad and the daughter.
Mhm.
Um, do you think this was like triggering at all for you for like the with like pandemic and zombie-ish and kind of stuff?
No, it wasn't for me. Um, I don't know. I feel like there wasn't was kind of just in the background for me. It felt like it was just the context of their world, and it wasn't super nearby a lot of times, except for maybe in Carter's story is probably the one where it was the most present, because in Hannah and Megan's, they're off somewhere else and they're just stuck. So that just felt like a survival thriller to me. And it was just the context of like, oh, there's a pandemic also happening in the background. But for Carter's, he's more close to the scientific stuff going on and some of the Whistler communities and whatnot. But I don't know. It didn't feel too close to our world, I guess, to be triggering for me.
Yeah, I agree. And so in Carter's timeline, he has like no face. He has no nose. He has frostbite all over his face. So he's like very much different than anybody else just because of how he looks. And so I really liked how she talked about like how he was adapting to living like this. And she would say like was walking outside in the cold and his like nose canal was just like open to the cold, and just like the way she like described his face. I guess it's body horror, huh? I guess it would be body horror, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was horrific to me.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. And then Meg is an ex-cop. And when she gets on there, there's a person that's already dead, and she knows that that guy's a cop because she knew him. But nobody else knows that. That's kind of her like little secret thing. And then Hannah, her dad is one of the main scientists that are working with this virus and trying to come up with. Well, actually, he was a professor at the university, right, or the college, but he was some kind of great scientist, and he was supposed to be like looking for a cure and all of that. So they all have their own little things going on throughout this. Really like the Chalk Man. Oh yeah, it was good. Uh-huh. I liked the Chalk Man too. That one is the most like King-esque, I feel like, of her books. You can definitely see the King inspiration in the Chalk Man. There was one line that Carter says. He says, "They were all survivors here, but survival was a solitary business." And I like that because they're like all these survivors together, but when it comes down to it, you're looking out for number one.
Yeah.
And that was like,
I loved that. And I loved the like the world is full of good people, or whatever that line was. You're either a good person or you're a survivor, and the world is full of dead good people. I love that little line. She's so good with those little moments that just hit you.
Yes, I love her writing. How do you feel about the like atmosphere of this compared to her other books that, well, I guess you've read them all, so.
This one's pretty different from the rest of her books, except for A Sliver of Darkness has a little bit in it too. But if you exclude that one because it's a short story collection, this feels more cinematic to me, I think, than some of her other books do. It just felt like you got so much of there wasn't really a lot explained about the world necessarily, but it just came to life so well off the page, and just everything. You had the context for everything and who these people were. They had these life stories. There's so much action happening in every single scene. Like each chapter ends with a moment that makes you want to get back to that POV again so that you can know what's happening next. And it just felt like watching a really good like limited TV series or something, kind of like The Last of Us, I guess, is why it makes me think of that so much. But yeah, I thought the atmosphere was great, and just the snowiness of it too, and being isolated is a little bit different from her other stuff. Most of the other books are like small town type stories, generally ish. Like Burning Girls is an English village. Chalk Man and The Hiding Place are small towns. The other people, they move around a little bit, but yeah, this felt very big. It felt very like big off the page to me. What did you think?
That's a really insightful point, actually, because it's weird because like a lot of her books have they're like, you can tell they're written by the same person, but they have very different vibes to them. Like Chalk Man is like little kids growing up friend group. And then The Burning Girls is like has this like religious, almost supernatural quality to it. And then what's the other what was that one?
people?
Other People, that was like a kidnapping type situation, right?
Like
It's
On the
been years.
Road, yeah.
So they're all very different, but so like linked together by this author, which I love. Um, let me think. Is there anything else non-spoilery that you think we should touch on before we move into spoilers?
I don't think so.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to, what is this? One of my favorite isolated. I love Isolation in the Snow. It just hits the spot for me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this one will stick with me more than other works that I've read. It felt so real. I feel like I was actually watching these people try to survive this landscape. Yeah, it did definitely feel, back to your point, Ashley, it did definitely feel like bigger picture, like you're thinking of like the whole world. And one thing I noticed actually is that I listened to the audiobook for most of it, and I read along. Oh, here's my little notes that I was making for the characters. I read along for parts of it with the physical book, but some of the characters had American accents and some of them have British accents. Did you listen to the
Oh,
audio at all?
I didn't know.
Meg in particular had an American accent. But she was still saying things like petrol for gas and like things that were like very British. So that was a little weird because I didn't understand why everyone wasn't just British. But I guess
Yeah,
that would have been
that's weird.
her wanting to make it this like bigger thing. But yeah, that didn't. I don't know if that made 100% of sense for me there. Let's now. I would love them to adapt this. I think this would be a great adaptation. Also, did you know that The Power? This is unrelated, but The Power by Naomi Alderman is being adapted on
Yeah, I
Amazon
didn't
Prime.
know that until you posted it, and then I went to go look. It's Toni Collette in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I haven't
It's
read the
totally.
book, but I will definitely watch that.
I think this is going to be one where the adaptation is actually better because there's so much in that book. I read the book and I loved the concept. But it was like, it felt like a whole series trying to be shoved into one book. Like it was too much information and too much world building. And so far, the adaptation, they're doing such a good job of like getting you to get to know these characters in a way that I didn't feel like I had enough clarity on each individual character in order to get connected to them. And in just those 3 first episodes of the adaptation, I'm like, I'm in love with it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Toni Collette is amazing. Okay, so let's get into spoilers. That was a little bit of a trajectory there away from the drift. But let's go into the spoiler section. So this is your warning. This is your cue to head out if you don't want to be spoiled. And we will see you next time. But if you have read the book or you just don't care about being spoiled, you, of course, may stay. And we're going to talk about what went on in here.
So much. So much went on in here.
Yes. That being said, oh, wait, the Chalkman's being adapted? Oh.
I did not know that.
I tried to read into the differing accents as well. But if that was intentional, I felt the references were too inconsistent to make an American versus British character. Yeah, so since we're into spoilering, I don't think they could have been American because this was all, as we find out, the Carter is Daniel, is Sean. So this is actually Carter's story, and we don't even know. So the way she hid this was that these are all actually different timelines, like the different timelines, but different points in time as we're following Carter / Daniel / Sean throughout his kind of journey. Like this is his story, and we didn't even know it. which I think was like awesome. I've never had an author pull one over on me like that much, where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
by the way, all 3 of these are the same person. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I think at like 65% or so that I started connecting Carter to Daniel. And then I still didn't connect it to Sean until
Yeah.
like way after that. And I was like, holy crap, I was like, hold on, are these at different points in
Yeah.
time? What is happening here? And when that started happening, I was like, okay, I'm in it. Like, I'm here. Let's see. Oh yeah, we read that. Carter's really been through it. Yeah, he has. And the thing is, like, I don't know if Carter is the hero or the villain.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
think
what I
he's
think
both.
is that's what CJ Tudor does so well is these
Yeah.
morally gray characters that you might not even realize they're morally gray until right at the end. And then you're like, oh, this is the person I've been rooting for. Was
Yeah.
that a good choice to be rooting for them or not? It's so cool how she does that.
Yeah, she did great with that. Let's see. So when Carter was a kid, his sister was Peggy, who was the one on the bus. He was Daniel. He was actually the driver of the bus that he kind of took over because he was trying to steal him and his pregnant sister off to safety, which he thought was safety, but it wasn't. Turned out Hannah's dad like set up this accident, and he wanted to have his daughter killed because he knew that she had tested positive, and she knew that he cared more about isolating this virus than he did about his actual daughter. And then so that happened, and then years later Peggy died. She had her baby. Was it Eva or Eve?
Eva.
And then years later he's didn't he find like what made him pick the name Sean? It was like he picked up somebody's suit that had a name on it or something. Oh no, that was Carter.
That was
Maybe
how he got Carter. Maybe Sean came from prison somewhere because he was in prison
maybe.
before that because he got sent
Yeah.
to prison after the bus accident.
Mm-hmm. And
And
then
then
so he's Sean, and he's the one that killed Mark, which was Meg's ex. Mark was Meg's baby daddy too, wasn't he? Slash
was
Paul
he?
wasn't his. I think
Was he the baby
so.
daddy? Oh wow.
I think his real name was Paul, right? And I think she said Paul was
Yes.
the dad of her daughter that died from this virus. And so Meg's been trying to off herself over and over and over because she can't live without her daughter, and she's like grieving so deeply. And that's why she chose to go to the retreat, because she knew that, she could do some good while also probably dying. So like everybody in the cable car going to the retreat either volunteered or they were forced to go because they were in jail for some reason. And basically you're volunteering yourself to be experimented on to try to help find this cure for the virus. And then we have Carter, who years later, after they found him, he kills Meg. And then they find him in the snow by the what's it called? The car thing,
Cable car.
And he's got frostbite. That's why he lost most of his face. They nurse him back to health, and he thinks that Dr. Grant is being held here, or is at the retreat at least, if not being held. And he wants to get revenge. This is all his revenge story, turns out. And then at the very end, we realize that the baby, Eva or Eve, is all grown up and turns into her own fucking superhero, like Darkwing Duck. And just like, what does she do? She steals or she threatens the guy in charge with her mom's infected blood.
Mm-hmm.
And then she I don't know what, she's like escapes off to like save the world and shit. Okay, so that was a lot. What else? Sorry,
you did great covering all that. So much happens, and you made it sound so simple.
What's going on? No, it was a lot. Let's see here. Yeah, Lily. At what point did you realize these time, like this stuff was going on with the timelines, that it wasn't all at the same time.
Um, I remember there being a moment where they're in the cable car in Meg's story, and she finds the photograph that says on the back Daniel and Peggy Invicta Academy. And I was like, "Oh, Daniel, that name sounds familiar. Oh, yeah, there's a Daniel in the first story. So there's got to be a connection there. But how could Daniel be in the same place? So either someone took that photograph and now has it on them, which wouldn't really make a lot of sense, or these are happening at different times. So that's when I figured out the timeline was probably different. But I was the same as you, where I pieced together Daniel and Carter first, I think, and then later the Sean thing got me too, which doesn't really make sense because I already pieced together the photograph. So I don't know why I didn't see that part first, but kind of like
Same.
she leads you into it in an interesting way.
When so at that moment, I was like, either he had said, who was it? Was Carter? Oh, it must have been Carter was talking about the picture too. Maybe it was a different chapter, because he had said
Mhm.
that she was his niece, and that the person in the picture, that he had said the baby was his niece, and that the person in the picture was his sister. So I was like, either he's Daniel or they have another brother. At that point, I was like, either he's
Mm.
Daniel or another brother, and that's his niece. And so that's when I put that together. And then um I was like, wait, that's the moment I was like, these are not happening at the same time. And then also it made sense because Professor Grant was not really in the story of the retreat. So I was like, well, what happened to Professor Grant? Like, because we know Hannah texted him
Mhm.
and to let him know that they were stuck in the coach or whatever in the drift. And he responded, "We're gonna come find you," or whatever. And so then I was like, well, where is he? Where did he go? Like, what's he doing? And then later we find out he's a whistler, right? Or is he just
Mhm.
like a band of whistlers?
I guess he's
He's
a whistler. Yeah,
and
I looked back at that because that piece confused me a little bit at the end, and I was looking back at my notes because I was taking notes on everything that was happening. If someone thought someone was suspicious or a minor clue happened, I was like, I know this is going to be significant. And in Sean's, or not Sean's, in Carter's timeline, the first time he sees the whistlers come and they drop all the lanyards down, he
uh,
makes a moment where he's like, oh, that's a familiar face, but I can't put a name to it. And so I guess that was Professor Grant. And he doesn't realize until the end that, and when it clicks, I guess he couldn't realize it was him because in his mind, he thought that Professor Grant must have been in their basement. So he wouldn't have thought that that was actually him. But then at the end of the book, when he's going off to die at the cable car and he sees them again, he's like, oh, yep, that's Professor Grant.
oh, why did I think the guy in the lanyard was Welland? Because Welland took somebody else's identity when he
Oh,
was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
at
No,
the.
no, no. Yes, the picture of the thing, that's what that was. But when he sees the
Okay.
group of the whistlers, he's like, that whistler has a familiar face, but I don't have a name to put with who that must be. And then later,
Oh,
like, oh, that was Professor Grant.
mm-hmm.
And I guess too, because so many years have spanned between the timeline, there's 10 years between the bus and the cable car. You don't know necessarily how many years are between the cable car and Carter's, unless I missed something. So also like he would have aged since he last actually saw him in person.
I thought, from my recollection, the coach thing was 13 years in the past. The cable car was 10 years in the past, and the other one.
I think he went to jail for 10 years after the bus accident happened. So that would have been
Okay.
before they get on the cable car. And then the cable car thing happened, and the guy who ran the place, I can't remember his name, Miles, found him at some
Yeah.
point, but I don't know if you know how long he's been living at the retreat.
Yeah, I don't know either. I want to say 7 years, but I could just have be making that up.
It does feel like
Uh,
it has to at least been a good amount of time, a couple years.
yeah. Yeah, and then Carter, aka Daniel, aka Sean, got.
I thought this was weird too.
You thought that was weird? I
Yeah,
don't
this
know, like in
tattoo of his sister.
well, because she died.
Who?
Peggy.
Okay. Did he get it after she died? If so, then that makes a little bit more sense. But I don't know if I've ever seen like a face of a person's family member tattooed on their body before. So that was like interesting.
Oh, I have. But yeah, I think it was after she died at some point, either when he was in prison or after that he got the tattoo, because Sean has the tattoo. Daniel didn't, as far as I assumed. How much Daniel Sean Carter changed with Peggy's death. He suddenly became so focused on survival and revenge. I mean, he put a lot into trying to save her. And I loved that from Hannah's perspective too, when in that timeline with the coach, she was underestimating him because he was kind of overweight and he was kind of like quiet and not really saying anything. And then as she got to know him, she was like, wait a minute, this guy's smart. Wait a minute, he knows what's going on. And so we start to like wonder about it, like what's special about him. And then we of course find out that he is Carter. And then as Sean, he knows too much as well. He knows too much about the cable car. He knows too much about like the dead guy, the cop, or just like how things like that work because he's been in prison. So yeah, but he definitely reminded me of like a villain that is like has a very specific origin story of like why I changed, like what changed, because he's willing to kill all of these people. Like he's just killing people all around for the sake of his sister. And it's like, at what point is it not worth your revenge because you're just having everybody else killed? I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares about other people. It's just like he's in his own, like very much like has this like tunnel vision going on. What does this say? Lily's dad died in a car motorcycle accident. Oh, so it wasn't that Mark guy? I could have misinterpreted that. Oh yeah.
There's so many little things. It's hard to remember all the little tiny moments of exposition you get for characters you don't even see on the page. She just packed so much in there. She's like, everyone has this full life to them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then when Meg, so Sean, aka Carter, aka Daniel, ends up killing Meg. And for a minute I was like, wait, did she not die? Because he like, doesn't he like hallucinate her later in the book or something?
Yes, that got me too. I think when he goes back with Miles, because they're going to get the generator from the station, and then he thinks he sees her for a moment.
And so she ends up finally seeing her daughter, and it has this moment where they're like meeting back up, and her daughter's like, where have you been, mama? And she's like, I told you I'd come. And they like go off into the distance together, I guess, figuratively. Yes, so that was pretty heart-wrenching. Paul Mark was an ex-boyfriend, not the baby daddy, though. Okay. Darkwing Duck. I did take pretty good notes. I mean, I tried to. You know, that's part of like when you're reading a book, like you don't want to have to do that, I guess, because it takes you out of it. You kind of have to sacrifice that little bit of your experience just because, you know, you want to be able to recall things, especially if you know you're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I had to keep stopping and be like, oh, I have to write this down or I'm going to forget about this.
I felt like I was doing that so much more for this book than I normally do, even for book club books. Because usually, if I'm reading a book for a book club, I'll read like a couple chapters and then I'll take some notes and what happened the past couple chapters. But with this one, it was like multiple times in a chapter, I'd be like, don't forget about that, and don't forget about that, and don't forget about that, because there's just so many things all the time.
Yeah, I feel like you could easily annotate this, even with like having each character be like a different color tab, and it would be just like all over the place trying to piece it together even still. So the ending I thought was really bleak until we have that little bit about Eva. See, Carter Strong is Daniel. Yeah, it was definitely a long game, this book. This was not like a just like quick, easy read. How
Yeah, I think
did
with the ending, like what I said initially before we got into spoilers, of it left me with a little bit of a so what feeling, or the theme felt really similar to a lot of other pandemic books. Like the message behind this one is, and this is the only thing I put a tab in for the book, is when he's ending his time with Meg, and they're like going to get the snowmobile together so that they can save the one that's left on the cable car, but actually he was just tricking Meg so that he could get to the snowmobile, and he was going to kill her and go off into the distance. And she says to him, like, how much longer are you going to do this? When are you going to stop? And she says, because caring is all we have left. If we stop caring about life, about other people, who are we? What have we become? And so that, I feel like, is a really common message that comes in a lot of these survival or like end of the world moments, is just the humanity behind it all. Like there's so much craziness going on, and the Lord of the Flies of it all, it turns us into beasts against each other. And you're going on this whole mission to kill all these people, and to what end? And you're wasting all these innocent lives. And if you are just disposing of humanity like that, then we don't have anything left. That's the only thing we have left in this time of such disarray, which I feel like is a great message. It's very relevant with today's world, and there's so much going on all the time. And anytime you turn on the news or look at your phone, it's like the next greatest tragedy or the next corrupt political thing happening. And in the day to day, how do you get through all of that? It comes back to your humanity and the connections you make and caring for others in the small moments. So I guess that's what left me a little bit with less of an impact, because it was a little bit of like a duh moment. And I didn't feel so attached to Carter. Usually when that message comes, it's something like Joel and Ellie on The Last of Us, like you root for them so much.
Yeah,
And for
that's true.
Carter, you get to this place where you're like, I don't know if I'm rooting for you, dude. And like, it was a little bit of a different spin on it, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very good point. But that kind of ties back to that quote that I read too, with the like, once it's a game of survival and it's a solitary game, because like once you go from into survival mode, we lose that little bit of humanity, that bit that makes life worthwhile. If you're thinking of it like an existential type of like, who are we, why are we here, it's certainly not try to like get more resources than the next guy so that you can last a little longer. But that is how it feels even in like corporate America, like this greed with wealth and everything like that. It feels like survival mode, and it should not be. Like, it doesn't have to be. So yeah, that's a really good point. Let's get caught up on these messages a little bit. He was the head whistler leading that group into the woods. Yeah, Dr. Grant. It was confusing. Yeah. We find out that Grant wasn't in the basement. Oh, yeah. He betrayed his own daughter to try to contain this disease, but it still got him in the end. Yeah, and the whole time. So that's one thing I was wondering about, is like Carter thought Grant was in the basement for like 7 years or however many years, and never took the opportunity to go down. I guess but he did have access to the basement, right? Or did he not? Was he biding his time to get...
Only Miles. Yeah, he was playing the long game, trying to win Miles' trust, because only Miles had the key, and then the woman whose name I don't remember also had a key, and like it seems like Miles knew she kind of had a key even though she wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, and we didn't know that.
Although, you know what? He had to have been going in the basement, because that's what I didn't really fully understand. Was he stealing additional things from their supplies, the plasma and the medicine that was missing? Was he stealing additional things on top of what Miles knew he was taking to sell to Jimmy Quinn? He was also stealing. So he had to have like had some opportunities, but maybe that like extra chamber had a special lock or something, so he never got to fully see.
Yeah, I remember something about Miles. There was a specific part that no one could get into because Miles changed the code like every week or something. And that might have been specifically like the chambers as opposed to like access to the basement in general. I would assume it was a prison tattoo for after she died. Yeah. How did Carter end up dying? I'm trying to remember. Because
He got
they had
sick because of the dog. The
That's
dog had been
right.
eating the dead bodies because Welland
Oh.
was a phony and he's never been incinerating any of these bodies. So he's just been throwing them in the woods and the dog goes and chews on the bones and then comes back and licks his face and he's like, "Oh shoot, I think I'm sick now."
The dog didn't actually die though. Did the dog die? I don't think he
He
did.
did. He
Oh, he
killed the
did?
dog. He shot the dog before he went off to the cable car station because he didn't want the dog to be left without him.
I must have just like right over that because I was like the whole
Yeah.
time I was like, this dog better not die. The dog
I
always
know.
dies. Dog always dies. I feel like if there's a dog, it's gonna die. It's just how it is.
Mhm.
In the Carter timeline, I think he cared a little about some of his coworkers, but then the other guy killed them all anyway. Yeah, and there was that whole thing about Anya, who like Anya, nobody talked about because I think she was like an original person at the retreat. Or if not, she was there like after the takeover or whatever it was. And something went wrong and she turned into a whistler, right? Is that what happened with her? Or like
Yes,
they
she
could have
was upset. She
and she
was
got sick.
upset that they were keeping there was the original staff, an outbreak happened. Anyone who got the outbreak, they put in the chambers to take the plasma from. She didn't get sick though, and she was starting to get upset that they were keeping the past coworkers down there. And I don't remember the exact mechanics of what happened, if they just extradited her and then you just assume that maybe she got sick or if something more particular happened, but that was like why she was upset.
He grew attached to some of the others at the retreat. Yeah, the lady with the dreads, especially too, that got killed immediately. And the other lady, Karen with a C, who he actually ended up liking, even though she had a bad reps from the start because her name was Karen, even though it was with a C. And I kept thinking that the lady in the cable car was her name Beth? The lady in the cable car that was really annoying. I kept thinking she should have been Karen.
Sarah, I think
Sarah
was maybe
was
her
it.
name.
I just enjoy the crazy carpet ride to the end. I did start to figure things out toward the end, though. Yeah. So, yeah, yeah. Oh, Dexter, that was the dog. Oh, what's What's
The
TLOU?
Last of
Oh,
Us.
Y'all are gonna. Yeah, you need to watch The Last of Us. It's
Do
so
we?
good. I'm just so mad that the season ended with episode 9 because I didn't realize going into that episode that was the last episode, and so I was like the next Sunday like ready to like watch another episode, and then
Aw.
just like, what? Why? Yeah, it's an amazing show. Knows the plot because my boyfriend played the game. What does that mean? The plot.
The Last of Us was a video game originally.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was about the book. I was like, what's the game? What did I do to you? Yeah, you should. Let's see here. Carter had a copy of the key, but not the part where the doctor was supposed to be. Okay. 13 had its own key. He was stealing plasma to send to Eva. Yeah, so he was like, remember he went up there and he like gave it to like the son or whatever, and he like put it in the like toilet. And he must have, I kept thinking about that too. He must have every time he went up there been like, hey, I gotta go potty. Like,
Yeah,
like,
every single time.
that had to have been suspicious after a while. He's like, oh, I gotta take a shit, man. Sorry.
Long trip.
I know. I read it. I finished it like 3 or 4 days ago, and I feel like I'm already like it's just a lot to hold on to.
It feels like each of these stories, especially Carter's story, could have been a whole book on its own. There was just so much there to do.
We don't talk about the dog. Did not the fake Welland kill Anya? The fake Welland, yeah, because that wasn't his real name. I don't recall.
I don't know. I just know they were unsure whether she was out there as a whistler or not. So there was never certainty from them. I don't remember Welland saying anything at his end evil speech. That was so funny how he like shaved his head to put his hair on Miles' body, and he's like sitting in that chamber down there waiting for Carter
Oh
to
my
come find him. Then he just turns around and he's like, "Whoa, the professor was never here."
He does have like a villain speech, doesn't he? He goes on
Mhm.
about how I did this and I did that. And you
Yep.
never knew that I don't know how to fix the electricity.
And I never liked any of you anyways. I was just waiting to kill you all.
Yeah. Carter's like, I knew you were a POS. What else? Is there a child behind me? Nope, just dogs. I was gonna say I would not put it past Hadley to like sneak in here and be like, dogs are actually being really good. They're both laying here and just cuddling, which they
Aw.
always interrupt somehow. So I'm really pleased with them right now. Although I say that now they're gonna start. There's something's gonna happen. They're gonna go outside and start barking. Well, let's see. Yeah, a whole story from each POV. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that. Told side by side is what confused me. Yeah, yeah. But I think that was kind of the point too, though, is to confuse you
Mhm.
with that. So that we wouldn't realize what was going on. Let's see. What didn't we touch on?
Um, oh, there was something really small that happened in the beginning. Did you notice any Easter eggs to any of her other books in this at all? Because I was kind of
No.
looking out for it, and there was something I wrote down on page 39, something happened that made me think of that, but I don't remember what it was at all. And then there was like a
Oh,
name
that's
that came up that sounded kind of familiar.
the earth is full of dead good guys. That was the quote.
Page 39, Carter's talking about, it says Carter hated woods and forests, always had. He blamed his dad. When Carter was a kid, his dad had told him this story about some kids he once knew who had found the body of a girl in the woods. She had been dismembered, limbs hidden under piles of leaves. They caught the dude who killed her, but never found her head. Is that what happened in the Chalk Man? Or maybe the hiding place? That just sounds really familiar to me. And I never went
Oh
and
no.
looked to see if it was actually connected, but I noticed that feeling a little familiar.
I'm curious now. It could be. It definitely could be. I don't remember the details of the Chalk Man. Yeah, I don't
I have them
know.
beside me.
Lost vibes without the layered stories, isolated setting, and unsatisfying ending for me at least.
Oh yeah, she is dismembered in the Chalk Man.
Yeah, Amit says I think that was the Chalk Man. Interesting. Good find. Cool. All right. Well, I think it's been 53 minutes. I think we've got everything out that I wanted to talk about at least. And I'm glad a lot of people actually did enjoy this. I'm sorry for those of you that did not enjoy this. I'm glad we did it. And I don't feel bad about waiting because I'm glad that I kind of avoided all of the other reviews and got to have my own opinion on it because I hate when that happens and somebody else doesn't like it. I had watched Gabby's video, which I'll probably watch now, but I had been avoiding it because I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
If I had watched that, it probably would have colored the way I saw this because Gabby has a very similar taste to both of us, I think. And so yeah, I'm really glad that I avoided that and formed my own opinion because once I got to the end of this, I was like here for it. I was here for it. I liked the bleakness of it. I liked that it ended on that like messed up note with Carter and the dog thing, but then it goes into like the Ava thing where I don't even know what she's doing. It feels like it could have a sequel, like
Yeah,
following.
that's what I was going to ask, if you thought she would revisit this, because it sets itself up perfectly for it if you wanted to follow her story and see. Then she kind of becomes the Ellie, right? Like, can she save the world type
Yeah.
story? But she's never done a sequel before, so that would be very new.
Somebody mentioned earlier they thought that Eva was immune. So if that is,
Mhm.
did
Yeah.
you catch that?
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
she is, because her mom, when she was pregnant, she was infected. Peggy was too.
know.
And well, I don't know if they ever said for sure that she was infected, but I guess you can assume she probably was, because like everyone on the bus pretty much got infected except for Daniel. And then she got cut out. And the whole thing about keeping her mom's blood with her. And she said she never had to take the plasma that he was sending to her. And she had been fine this whole time.
Yeah, so she probably was immune. So that's super The Last of Us in that regard.
Mhm.
Incredible characters, love the writing style, enjoy the plot, couldn't put it down. Yeah.
I feel like this book has grown on me too, talking about it in detail. I'm like, oh, I really appreciate that she did something different. She made some really bold choices, especially with the ending. And like, you don't get a happy ending for Carter. You do get the villain story. And then at the end, he dies. And it is kind of like, so what? But also, it's a very real type of story instead of
Mhm.
what usually is told.
Her next book is a vampire story set in Alaska.
Shut
What?
up. That's so cool.
Oh, wow. Like she's doing it again, like totally different premise. That is so cool. Yeah, I really respect her as an author so much. I think she is
Mhm.
just very clever and she's patient with her thrillers. Nothing ever feels like rushed. It always feels like it's so meticulously, like the details are so meticulously placed so that you will catch up to it like just before it's revealed. And it allows me to feel like I'm catching on to something early, but I think it's meant for me to do that, you know? And so it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm smart. But then she reveals it like right after that. Jennifer Hillier does that too. Yeah, that one sounds good. So, what do you have coming up, Ashley? Do you have your own book club for your members,
I
right?
do. I have a monthly book club through my channel membership at the highest tier. This month we're reading She is a Haunting, which is a YA horror book that is gothic-y that I think will be fun. And then also I'm reading Our Share of Night, which is a pretty chunky 600-page book by Mariana Enriquez. And I'm sort of buddy reading it with my members too if they want to join. But I'm going to be vlogging it, so I'll have a vlog coming out of that at the end of the month. And then I also have the 24-hour horror-a-thon coming up round 6-ish, I think we're on, in April, where we will be reading the book Jawbone by Monica Ojeda.
I
That'll
need to read.
be the last Friday of April if anyone wants to join. And that's free. That'll just be on YouTube.
That's awesome. I definitely have been interested in that. The night one. What's it called?
Our
With the
Share of
hand.
Night. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been really interested in that one too, but so intimidated because it's so long. And I think that one's kind of culty
Mm-hmm.
too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think it's
Yeah.
vampire-y. I don't really know, but
Oh,
I'm like, I'm
okay.
just committing. I'm reading it this month. I'm gonna do a vlog. People can buddy read it, because otherwise I would put it off forever too,
Right,
because
right.
it's chunky.
Yeah, so if anyone has not seen my last video where I talk about the next 3 months, that has been posted on my channel. You can go find that. We are, for the next month, we're reading The Protege by Jody German or Jody German. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. And that one sounds really good to me. It's a thriller, and it's like about this Bones-esque type anthropologist slash person who's obsessed with bones, and she's a professor. It's supposed to be good for her. I've heard it compared to Lane Fargo, so we'll see how that goes. And Savannah or Sab is going to be joining me from Riveting Reads to talk about that one. And what else? I Anything else you want to mention, Ashley, before we
I don't think
click
so.
off the live here? All right.
Oh, I
Then,
did actually want to ask the crowdsource,
oh yeah.
any similar recommendations for either books or movies or TV shows? I know we keep talking about The Last of Us being really similar to this, but does anyone
Mhm.
else have any recommendations? Because for me, at least, I feel like I have not read a ton of books like this that are so broad in the world of what's going on. I have read a ton of survival thrillers. So I have like a million just survival thriller recommendations that I've really liked. But it just felt so much like The Last of Us. That's all I could think of. And then it feels like I have not read this book yet, but that book, The Marigold, that's coming out, Andrew F. Sullivan soon, I
Yeah.
think. That and it's like the fungus thing.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if that will be kind of similar too, but I don't know because I haven't read it yet. I saw someone said Yellow Jackets, that show. That's a really good recommendation too.
I love Yellow Jackets. Obsessed with that show. Yeah, Shiver. I totally get that with the isolation and there's more of like a friend group dynamic in that one, but I enjoyed that one as well. Also, like The Power, like I had mentioned earlier by Naomi Alderman, is very much set up in the same way. Like it's a very big world. We're following each person individually. And in that sense, there's no like, pandemic or zombies, but it has the same, like it's set up in the same way. Yellow Jackets is really good, and that's on Showtime if anyone's curious. And it's about this group of it's like dual timeline. These group of girls, they're a high school soccer team and they're going to nationals. And on the way, their plane goes down and they get caught in these woods and they end up like eating each other and stuff. And and then we're going back and forth
Casual.
between and then them as like grown-ups and like how they get out of that. We still don't know. It's season 2 now. Let's see. The
Ooh,
Stand.
yeah, I haven't read that one yet, but I've heard
Either.
good things.
Oh, just as Near the Bone by Christina Henry. Definitely with the isolation there. For sure, I can see that. Well, cool. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Thanks for hanging out with us. This has been a blast. Ashley, thank you for co-hosting with me. I appreciate you being here and putting off reading this for so long because I know we were both really anticipating it. It came out in January.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right, I think we're gonna call it. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend, and don't forget we're reading The Protege next month, and I'm going to post shortly some graphics for that on Instagram. So if you're not following Midnight Society Book Club on Instagram, go ahead and do that as well because you'll get more up-to-date information. And that's gonna be it. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.